Hello YouTubers. This is just a really quick video to kind of give you some of my video recommendations for kind of teaching yourself about World War II. So a lot of the movies and the documentaries that I have had access to, I used to teach a World War II class at Franklin Pierce High School, and I loved teaching it because it was such a fun class, but it got cut. So in AP World, I spent approximately 2 days, maybe 3 days on World War II, where I'm used to spending something like a semester. And so I've used all these movies to show clips from, and I would recommend watching a few of them in order to kind of teach yourself a little bit more about World War II. A lot of these, unfortunately, come from the U.S. perspective, but they nonetheless will do a pretty good job of teaching you about what this war was all about. So as far as documentaries, I'll start with documentaries before I move to my Hollywood list. But documentaries about the war, the very best documentary that I've seen out there is simply called The War by Ken Burns. Ken Burns did a really good job of putting together a lot of interviews with people who primary source material. Sorry, the fuzz on my camera was bothering me. Primary source material from some people, to put it bluntly, before they passed away, was able to record a lot of really good, gripping material from people who were part of what was going on in the United States during World War II. And the downside is it's a 15-hour documentary. The good thing is, if you're a Netflix member, it's all there. You can watch the whole shebang on Netflix, at least the last time I checked. Maybe not anymore. Netflix does that. They pull stuff off quickly. From the time period, there's a good documentary called Why We Fight. And this one's more like 4 or 5 hours of documentary footage. And it's really a lot of propaganda from the United States War Department. It was put together to kind of show, like, the public why in the world we were getting involved in this big war. So that's a good one, Why We Fight. You can check some clips from that out. There's some really good stuff put out by Disney during the war, and some of my favorite stuff to look at, because it really does, once you kind of understand what was going on in the war, these cartoons really make sense. And these cartoons were really made by Walt Disney during the war years in order to educate people about why we were fighting in this war, but then also to entertain people and kind of keep a lighthearted mood. So you can find a couple of different types of videos by Walt Disney. Probably the most serious one that he made was called Victory Through Air Power, and it was a video that he made, a full-length movie that he made in order to encourage the United States military to build an air force. They didn't have an air force before World War II. It was all incorporated into their Navy and their Army. So Walt Disney was a firm believer in air power as the new thing. And indeed, it would be air power which won the war. So Disney's good. There's also a really good one if you were going to watch a couple of short clips. There's one called Der Führer's Face, which is, it used to be called Donald Duck in Nazi Land, but it's all about Donald Duck waking up as someone who lives in Nazi Germany. And it's funny, but it's also to kind of point out how insane Nazi Germany was at the time. And then a more serious film, short film, it's only about 10 minutes, is called, what was it? Is it Education for Death? And the tagline is The Making of a Nazi. And so this one is a more serious cartoon to show how and why the Nazis took power and what it was like to live in Nazi Germany. So, and these films were kind of made in order to entertain people before movies, when they went to go see movies during the war. So, and then other than that, there's a pretty good one that I like called Horrors in the East. And it's talking about some, basically morality issues of warfare in the Eastern theater of operations, so the Pacific, and it's fairly good because it has some pretty good blunt footage from soldiers and more interviews with soldiers. As far as Hollywood goes, okay, so my absolute favorite World War II movies, there's two, and they kind of have a tie for the lead. One for how beautifully made it is and how wonderful all the different themes of warfare come together, is The Thin Red Line. The Thin Red Line is set in the Pacific Theater, and it follows myriad characters and goes through a lot of different emotions and levels, and it's great. It's a wonderful wonderful story. It's very gripping. And then Saving Private Ryan is probably my favorite one about the European theater of operations. And I remember going to see this when it came out when I think I was 17, and I had to sneak in with not a fake ID, but just because I knew the guy who was at the movie theater. And Saving Private Ryan is also a good one about the idea of ordinary people going to war, not professional soldiers, but people who were farmers and teachers and had other lives. So that one's good. There's two about the war in the East that are very good as the war was closing down toward Japan. Letters from Iwo Jima and then Flags of Our Fathers, and those movies were both directed by Clint Eastwood, and both of them are really good in showing both sides of the war, why the Japanese were so highly nationalistic and why this war was so difficult on American soldiers as well. So those two movies would be good to watch, one after the other. And then the two that I would recommend for sure watching sometime in your life, these would be like watch it once and you're good, are Schindler's List, which is about the effects of the Holocaust and the concentration camps and the rounding up of European Jews by the Nazis, and how one-man Schindler attempted to save as many as he could. And that one's just a great movie. And then the other one is Life is Beautiful. Now, Life is Beautiful is an Italian movie, and it's all in Italian language, and so if you can't stand subtitles, this might not be the movie for you, but it still will be the movie for you because it's just so dang good, and it's so uplifting and heartwarming that I think anyone would love it, even if they have to read subtitles. So I would recommend that one to you as well. And that's one I could watch over and over again, probably once a year. That's on my list. So, and I cry like a little baby at the end of that movie. So just to give you a heads up. And then if you want to vomit all over yourself, you can watch Pearl Harbor, and that has Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett, and it's more about their love, not for each other, but for the same woman, than it is about Pearl Harbor. But if you must, then you can watch that one. I wouldn't recommend it, though. Be awesome, and I'll see you guys next week with some more stuff about World War II and the Cold War.